Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I actually haven't made a new YouTube video in almost 5 months, and I feel like I may be a little rusty with the voiceover again, but I really wanted to make this sketchbook tour because this sketchbook is my sixth sketchbook, like my sixth proper sketchbook that I filled from the first page to the last page, and it's been with me from October last year, and I finished it a few weeks ago. So I wanted to wrap it up and make a complete sketchbook tour like I have with my previous sketchbooks. So yeah, let's get right into it. Firstly, this sketchbook is a Hannah Mueller 100% cotton paper sketchbook. So the paper looks thin, it's 300 GSM. The paper looks thin, but it can hold a lot of layers. I've used gouache, watercolor, alcohol inks, just ink in the sketchbook. I've stuck other pages into it. So the first thing that I do when I start a new sketchbook is I paint a welcome page. This welcome page was a little bit different. I made it feel more like a wizard's tome, or some wizard's paper is flying out from a very important ancient magical tome, and kind of like Lemony Snicket stories where he keeps like he used reverse psychology to get you interested in reading the book. Don't read this book, don't turn the page, stay away. That's what I went for in this cover page. This black paper, this tree portal and black paper, was actually the first big publishing project that I had the opportunity to be part of. I made a chapter for 3D Total, which is a publisher that I've followed for so many years, and I love all the artists that they work with. So I was completely mind blown when I got this opportunity to contribute an entire chapter to one of their books, painting fantasy with gouache. At this time, I was also drawing my bird a lot. He's a ringneck parakeet, so you might see a lot of parrots here. Just a disclaimer, this little guy here is a study from an artist that I found at the beginning of the year, Alfred Liu, and I really love how soft his paint looks on the paper, and at first I thought it was watercolor, so I attempted a study, and after that, from one of his older posts, that actually he uses gouache, which blew my mind, because when I think of gouache, I think of much more texture instead of smoothness. Another thing I learned from this artist, and that I've been trying to implement into my painting since then, was his use of patterns and symbols. So these characters look like they're cute from a cartoon or an animation, but they're kind of symbolizing a lot of history he's inspired by. So that inspired me to kind of do a deep dive into my background, my ethnicity, and my origins, which I would love to incorporate more into my animal paintings, my fantasy illustrations. Another thing that you'll find a lot in this book, besides parrots, is experiments. I do a lot of studies, I do a lot of experiments when I get a new supply. So these are some thumbnails and even some written ideas of paintings that I had in my mind. And the sketch on the bottom right is a study of a French illustrator, and he illustrated a book called The Last of the Mohicans. Here's some more ideas for different painting for what maybe the Parrot Apprentice characters might be doing. At this point, I still didn't have like a fleshed out story or even names for these characters. Here's a study from another of my all-time favorite illustrators ever, Jesper Eising. This is a wizard study from the blog. There was also some points in the blog post that he outlined to improve his own painting. In his paintings though, he uses acrylic, but I used gouache in my study. These are some more gouache little illustrations that I did for the purpose of making content. I think one of the things I really intentionally tried to balance this year was making art versus making content. In this book, I also experimented or tried to practice how to paint or draw human characters, more humanoid characters, because that's something I have avoided for the longest time. I just don't enjoy drawing human characters. They are just very difficult, but I don't want to take the easy route out anymore. These are some experiments, again like swatches. I've got a new set of watercolor. These little green colors, perfectly granulating. I just love them so much. I had a blast just trying to swatch them here and doodling leaves. Often the most fun I have in the sketchbook when it's just trying out a new supply, making a mess, scribbling. So these pages are still from December of 2024, and this was when I actually got my first huge publishing contract with, but it was for a watercolor book, and I needed to brush up on my watercolor skills. So in this next few pages, that's basically what you will see. It's a bunch of experiments. For gouache, I did start painting with watercolor, but it wasn't my favorite medium. I found that working opaquely came more intuitively to me, which is why gouache is the best. It's my favorite. I think this is in the beginning of this year now, 2025 February. I'm not sure why it's not dated here, but I remember this tree here was painted with just the primary colors. It was for a tutorial for my gouache starter pack that I released in February this year, and it has 3 PDFs, basically just compiling all the essentials to start with gouache as a complete beginner. So here I hit kind of a dead end. First illustration of this year was an idea that I had to paint the domestic life of a wizard, but I didn't like the execution. So that's when I realized actually I have a lot more fundamentals to learn and study. This year I took up plein air painting and still life painting to make up for that, for those fundamentals, even drawing fundamentals. So there's an artist called Samuel Earp on YouTube, and he has extremely valuable free tutorials. On the left page here, that's one of the landscape tutorials that I followed, and I learned so much just from this one tutorial that I took with me throughout the year. Basically, what I wasn't satisfied with in my previous paintings was how saturated the greens were looking. It was looking a bit too cartoony, and that was not what I was intentionally aiming for. I didn't want a cartoonish feel. Obviously, I wanted a fantasy feel, but I just wanted to overall improve my color theory observational skills to make better illustrations that match what I have in my vision, basically. On this page, I went back to watercolor, and this was about when I discovered another artist, a beautiful fantasy world called Gouache, and the artist Larry McDougall really inspired me. I really love how this artist paints trees and dark, moody, gritty forest scenes. So this study helped me kind of tone down the saturation, but also know and understand that my voice, I love to put dramatic light and more saturation, just a little bit more saturation, but more color. So finally, we're here at some of the illustrations I made in watercolor for my upcoming book, Watercolor was. In the beginning, at the first half of this year, that's all. I just kept illustrating between February to April. All I was doing was illustrating the tutorials for this book, and it was actually wonderful because I didn't have to do any content creation, even though I did video and a lot of behind the scenes and take photographs behind the scenes. It just felt like a taste of a little bit more freedom, not having to worry about views and engagement and algorithms, because I know that I was getting paid offline for this project. In between illustrating watercolor wizardry, I did come back to gouache. I was doing some gouache plein air and still life studies to improve and to do something different. And then once I illustrated all the tutorials, I also illustrated some fuller illustration, and that's what these green parrots in the green color pencil are for. But that, even though they were meant as fuller illustrations for the book, it also helped me to grow the story with the parrot apprentices. Any chance I get, I'm drawing a parrot apprentice with a little wizard hat, and they're casting some kind of spell. You never know what the spell is going to do. It's not good. It's never good. This is one of my favorite studies of this year. One of my favorite plein air studies of the V&A waterfront in Cape Town. I did this in June, and these are some cloud studies. Some of them are pictures, photographs my sister took. Clouds are really difficult, especially in watercolor. I wanted to just experiment and learn how to paint anything. These are some mermaids that fairly humanoid that I attempted to sketch. I think at this point of the year I was done with the illustrating part of watercolor wizardry, so naturally I went back to my favorite medium of all time, gouache, and I was feeling a little rusty with gouache, so I did a study. This little branch on the left side of the sketchbook is a study from the D&D Essentials kit that I was gifted this year. And as soon as I saw that illustration, I knew it was a Jesper Ising illustration. I confirmed it, and I did a study of it because I love the way he uses color and texture, and he treats acrylic like watercolor, but it's still so much more vibrant than watercolor. I don't know, it's just amazing. So I just did a study to get back into gouache. This was just me warming up the gouache muscle after painting with watercolor for a few months. This page was done in June, July for watercolor month, and my prompt that I was hosting with my local art supply company was forest journal. Finally, this illustration of the parrot apprentice with his blue eyes glowing is one of the more fully fleshed out characters of the story, the first one. His name is Roti, and he is the cipher master of the coven. So I made a cipher called a ringneck cipher, which is the basis of the whole magic system of these parrot apprentices. Here I did a study, if you recognize it, is from the movie, the animated movie Brother Bear. I love the backgrounds in that movie. I love the use of color, and which is exactly the kind of color I naturally gravitate towards when I'm illustrating. So doing a study of Brother Bear, I think I did 2 studies from 2 different backgrounds from Brother Bear this year. I love the composition and I love the color. Then in October, I had a Mosstober challenge. October is notorious for having a sea of drawing challenges on Instagram where people post prompt lists, and you can follow either its daily prompt list or weekly prompt list. I hosted a prompt, and the theme was a wizard who's obsessed with creating alien life. They experiment in terrariums, tiny jars, and one day another spell goes haywire, goes wrong, and this wizard shrinks down into one of the terrariums, and indeed there is life in that terrarium, alien life that they created. So my version of interpreting the prompt is this page here on the left, where there's a terrarium and there's mutated tardigrades. They're also called moss piglets. So they became the main civilization inside this terrarium. I had a lot of fun making the story and trying something new, telling the story in one page laid out like a graphic novel. On this last page, I started playing Silk Song. I was inspired to paint a scene from Silk Song. That was the end of the sketchbook tour. I really hope you enjoyed it. These lovely stickers are from various South African artists. That concludes this sketchbook tour. If you made it this far, thank you so much, and comment what your favorite page or spread or story was from the sketchbook, and what you would like to see me paint in the next sketchbook. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead, and I will see you in the next video.